Welcome, everyone. We are live. It is Monday. Here we are. Monday. New day, new tasks, new attitude. I was listening to something on the weekend, and they're talking about rituals. Now, I'm just going to pop over on here and look it up to give you the definition, Well, the alleged definition. Which dictionary? The Oxford Language Dictionary. It says ritual is a noun, a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. Where's Merriam-Webster? So, what is it? A religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. So, a ritual. I'll give you the definition based upon the reason people do rituals. People do rituals, some say to get protection, some say to communicate with their higher self. People do rituals for a lot of reasons. But let me ask you this question. Especially the communication with oneself, the higher self. Why people do rituals. Where do you think your higher self is? It is, Neville Goddard said a while back, I forget which lecture it was, that humanity does not need an intermediary, a go-between then, a runner of sorts, someone to come along and say, tell me, and I'll pass on the information for you, and then we'll get back to you. You don't require an intermediary between you and God. First of all, if one knows where God is, then you'll understand why you don't need an intermediary. God is within. God is within. But I know sometimes when we hear that word God, we tend to freak out a little bit, right? But ritual comes out of the same thing. A ritual would be an intermediary. Something that people do in the expectation of protection, of money, of whatever it is they're expecting to happen. Right? Now, it says a prescribed process, If you have a book and the book has rituals in it, nobody's using that book, right? Bear with me. We're getting where we're going. The ritual requires someone to do it. The ritual requires someone to perform it. It's not going to perform itself. A ritual requires someone to perform it. Now, the person who's performing the ritual, do they believe that what they're doing is the answer? If they believe it, then they will see the result of their belief. If they do not believe, they will see the evidence. They will see the evidence of their non-belief. So then with further inspection, when you look at a ritual, some people burn incense. Some people burn sage. Some people sprinkle. Some people do many things. But if you look at a ritual, it is almost the same thing as a habit. Almost, in that you do the same thing the same way every time. The difference is a habit is formed just because you do this thing the same way every time. That's what forms a habit. A ritual is a deliberate act. Okay? It is a deliberate act. I'm not here to tell you rituals work, rituals don't work. I'm here to tell you that you will always see the evidence of that which you believe to be true. So if the ritual requires someone to perform it, where is the power? In the ritual or in the person performing the ritual? Where's the power? If those words never came off the page and no one ever did them, does the ritual have life? It really isn't a trick question. Does it have life? It's just sitting there. In the scripture, it says, take this bread and eat it often in remembrance of me, and it is my flesh. Take this cup, drink. It is my blood. That's a ritual. It's a ritual. It has no power other than what you give it. If you go all the way back to King David in the Old Testament, what did he say? Thy word I have hidden in my heart that I may not sin against thee, which means he is in constant remembrance. He is in constant communication with God. He's not waiting for something to remember God with. So now go back and think of it, because when I say it to you and you hear it now, the word ritual, when you hear it, now hear it through the lens of the principles. The principles give you the power to become your own intermediary. The principles are, for lack of a better phrase, awakened within you so that you can follow, you can apply them. That's what happens with the principles. A ritual tells you you must seek the power outside in a thing. Look at the difference. One of them gives you the power to govern yourself, to make good choices. The other one, there's an element of fear to it. How so? I mentioned some people do rituals for protection. From who? A perceived enemy, right? People do rituals to allegedly connect to their higher selves. You're walking with the principles and living them every day. That's the first thing that happens to you when you come into contact with the principles deliberately. You become aware that you are, that you exist. Period. That's what happens. And from that awareness, you learn that who you say you are inside is what you will experience on the outside. So if that is the case, then through observation, you will notice that the ritual takes something from you. And it comes from a different place altogether. See, when you live by way of principle, you will recognize that a ritual is not necessary because a ritual has no power other than what you give it. So if the ritual requires your power, your belief in it to make it work, well then, would it just not be easier to simply apply the principles instead of having to go through a whole bunch of quote unquote protocol? What if you got a part of the ritual wrong? Does it still work? But look at all the complexities of doing the ritual. But go back to the simplicity of the principles that say the all is mind. The universe is a mental creation. Who is it that I say I am? Who do I say that I want to become? When you go and you answer that question, you begin to realize that you start to change. You're not hoping and wishing for the ritual to work. Hmm? So when you come across that word, ritual, and you hear about it in the general public, you will get it. You will understand that if you're performing a ritual, then you do not live by law. At least not deliberately. Because we always live by way of law. We can't break law. You cannot plant corn and reap tomatoes. If you want tomatoes, you have to plant tomatoes. So one cannot break the law. You can't break it. Thereby, there's a peace and a comfort that comes along with knowing that. So when you go outside into the world and you hear, yeah, you see, you gotta do this, you gotta burn this at this time, you gotta drink this, or you gotta eat that, or my favorite one is you gotta dance naked in the moonlight. Shoot, I would dance naked in the moonlight just because I'd get to be naked. What other reason, you know? But the ritual has so many moving parts, and it makes it complex. It makes it complex. But a ritual will follow a law. See, a ritual is not outside of principle either. This is why the ritual works if you believe that it does. As within, so without. And I know that there are many that would want to argue. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to stir you to observe where the power lies. The principles show you your power to change your life. As Neville would say, without the help of anybody else. But if you need 1,000 people to help you, because you have decided to change your life, those 1,000 people will show up. And you're not forcing them to do anything. You're simply living by way of principle, by way of law. Right? That observation is so important. The principles show you your power, who you are, what you are capable of. A ritual tells you by way of its very nature that you don't have the power. So you have to rely on something outside of yourself. See? Again, it's not a judgment, it's an observation. So that when you recognize that the performing of a ritual is, what's the word? It is not good, it is not bad, nor is it indifferent. It simply is a ritual. There's no judgment there. But if you need to perform a ritual in order to gain the strength, but then you're looking in the wrong place. Because a ritual, that's why I always say, if a ritual is in a book and the book is closed, and no one is performing that ritual, does it have power? Some would say yes, it has potential power. But think about you now. Science is saying, especially with that double slit experiment, that the results are influenced by the observer. The results are influenced by the observer. What the observer believes that they see. But you know that that is the principle of mentalism. That you are aware. And then you are aware of something. That's something that you're doing. You are always aware. That is the principle of mentalism. You are always aware of your very existence. And in that existence, you do things. You are aware of doing those things. You are aware of feeling the way that you feel. You are aware of it. It is one's awareness that brings about the change. What are you presently aware of? And now what are you aware of wanting to become? So you see, the power is always with you, as per the principles. The moment you have to step outside of yourself, if I burn this color candle at this time of day, I'll be protected. But what if I'm 2 or 5 minutes late? Do I still get the protection? What if I don't have the right kind of thing to pour out in my ritual? What do I do? Do you see the difference between those two things? One leaves us sure of who and what we are. The other leaves us full of doubt and worry. So that's why this morning is important. The ritual has no power other than what you give it. Other than what you give it. But I understand. We can, quote unquote, imbue things with our power. This is why things like talisman. A talisman is something you would use to protect yourself. Because you've imbued the talisman with your power. It always comes back to you. Neville Goddard graciously says, you are the operant power. You're the operant power. Now here's the other thing about a ritual. I'm sure we hear a lot of things about rituals in the public or non-public, if you know what I'm saying. I told you there's an element of fear in a ritual. Because that thing can be taken. If you are, quote unquote, using the ritual to gain riches, to gain power, what happens? There's an element to it that says to you, if you do this, if you do that, or if you don't follow through in this ritual, you'll be punished. You'll lose everything. You see, there's an element of fear to using a ritual. But when you use the principles, you will recognize that if you have fear within, you will experience that on the outside. And when you use the principles, you can overcome fear just by simply understanding what it is and why it has no power over you. So you see today, my beautiful friends, you do not throw your power away. You do not acquiesce your power. You don't give it to someone else because that is not the way. Even though you may, quote unquote, give away your power by succumbing to the external pressure of people and, like people pleasing. You do what they want you to do so you can keep them as a friend. What did you do in that situation? Gave your power. If I don't do this, they won't love me. If I don't do this, I won't fit in. If I don't do this, if I don't do that, if I don't do this. Key word is if I. The power always begins and ends with you. Good, bad, or indifferent. good, bad, or indifferent, the power begins and ends with you. And it's not power that you wield over anyone. It is the power that you wield in the knowledge and application of the principles. Right? Think about that. It says, somewhere in scripture, I forget which one, it says, the Lord delights in the smell of burnt offerings. That is a ritual. So if you don't burn or sacrifice, then God is displeased. Allegedly. Do you see the fear now? Do you understand the fear in a ritual? Think about that. Compare the two things. Rituals are there because we have forgotten where the power truly lies. It is some food for thought, I'll tell you. It is definitely some food for thought. And this is why I love the principles. Because it puts everything into perspective for you. It just does. Because if you understand, if you comprehend that the power lies within you, you realize we wouldn't turn to a substance to cope. Oh, we wouldn't turn towards anything but inward. But I shan't preach at you this morning. It's just I wanted you to see the difference, to comprehend. Any kind of thing that takes the power away from you. Check that by knowing where the original power comes from first. That is what I say. I'm not going to play the chime this morning because I want us to really just simply sit there in that space. Yes, you do not require an intermediary. Something or someone to bring you closer. To who? You. Who's going to bring you closer to you other than you? So how do you do it? How do you deliberately use the principles? Step 1. Oh, good morning, Lil Bit. Oh, you got some bass in your voice this morning, handsome. Oh my. It is his birthday. He's 2. Yay! He's a big boy now. He's 2. Wow. He doesn't need an intermediary. And it's funny because nobody teaches him how to crow. Nobody teaches him. He comes knowing what to do, and at the appointed time, he opens his mouth, he finds his voice, and it just pours forth from him. Not like this at the first time, because those vocal cords weren't ready or developed. So he learns just by allowing it to happen to him without the aid of an intermediary. Right? So today, my beautiful friends, recognize where the power is. Step 1. Who or what do you want to become? What do you want to accomplish? Step 2. Begin to experience in imagination what you would be doing in reality if you were the man or the woman you said you wanted to become. And naturally, you flow right into step 3 because the feeling says, oh my, yes, this is exactly what it is. This is exactly what I'd be doing if I were the man or the woman I wanted to be. This is exactly what I'd be doing. And you immerse yourself in that feeling. Now remember, it's not a feeling necessarily that says, you know, oh my God, I'm so excited. It is the knowing of what one is doing. It is the knowing of what you are applying to your life. It is the knowing. When you say, I'm a plant, ... You plant knowing what the harvest will be. That's what you do. And what would you be doing with your harvest? Right? What would you be doing with your harvest? That's that's actually part 2. It's step 2. To experience in imagination what you'd be doing in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. That is to answer the question. You've got your face in something there, boy. That's really some bass. Beautiful. Beautiful boy. That thing that you would be doing is, for example, I mentioned it, that my apple tree has many blossoms, and I usually get a pretty good crop, you know. I'm not going to wait till I pick the apples to decide what to do with them. So if I know I'm having a harvest of apples, what would I be doing with that harvest? Well, I'd be making hard apple cider. I'd be making apple cider vinegar. I've been making apple pie. I've been making fruit leather. I've been doing all kinds of things with those apples. So what would you be doing with your harvest? Your harvest means the man or the woman that you want to become. That is the harvest. What would you be doing with it? How would you be living out that harvest? You begin to see it and know that once you see it, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I'd be doing. Once you see it in your mind's eye, and you know that that's what you want to become, then you no longer have to force anything. Because you can't force things. It doesn't require you to force it to be. It requires you to know that it is within you. Then you will experience it on the outside. So we're going to touch on faith without works is dead. The faith is the knowing that who I say I want to become, that I shall become it. The work is to get your mood, mental attitude, to match. That's the work. Oh my God, I totally want to do this. I totally want to be this. But I don't know, man. I don't know. The work required is for you to see and know in your mind's eye who and what you want to become. That's the work. It is nothing that you do outside physically. The things that you do outside physically are they are the result of you making the decision to say, this is who I want to become. So that means all the people you need to meet, all the places you're going to go, they follow as a result of your choice and what you hold to be true of that choice. You say, I'm planting corn? Shoot, well, I know I'm going to get corn, so let me plant all the things I can do with corn. That's it. No force required. No ritual required. Anyhow. That is what I will share with you today. I trust that you will apply the principles. I give it to you in layman's terms every day. I give it to you in bite-sized pieces every day that you can test it out for yourself. Here's an exercise you can do then that will show you that you've just done step 1, 2, and 3. If you catch yourself saying today, oh my goodness, what a coincidence. If you catch yourself saying that at any point throughout the day, oh my goodness, what a coincidence. Remember that a coincidence is what you have on the inside that you were either thinking about or seeing. You're now experiencing it on the outside. Because that's what you're seeing. You're like, wait, I was just thinking about that. And there it is. What a coincidence that the thought that is invisible shows up in a visible experience. So you will see that right there. When you said, oh my goodness, what a coincidence, you will just recognize that's the principle of correspondence. I had this thing in my mind's eye. I had this thing in my thought. I had this thing in my imagination. And holy cow, there it is. That's an exercise. And you will recognize the principle of correspondence. So then now you can practice being deliberate. Because when you said, oh, what a coincidence, you weren't necessarily deliberate. That's why it caught you off guard. And you're like, wait, what? I was just thinking about you. And here you are calling me? What a coincidence. So the next time, you will know that when you think of a person, you're like, wait a minute. I thought about them and they called me. You will begin to recognize that what you had within is what you experienced on the outside. And so you will practice being deliberate in having something on the inside. Because the moment you see it and you say, what a coincidence, you realize, wait a minute. That was my thought inside my head, and there it is outside. What other thought can I put into my mind that I want to experience on the outside? When you see that you've just done the principle of correspondence, then you will practice being deliberate with it. Anywho, my beautiful friends. Hey, Cyber. I know that's the big birthday boy. I'm not sure which day it was in June that he hatched. So it's the whole month for him. Oh, yes, it is. It's the whole month for him. Because I didn't hatch him, right? He was hatched on the farm. But with Popcorn, shoot, I know Popcorn. He popped out March 26th. We had a good time in the yard. The four of us. Yeah, it was quite lovely. Quite lovely. Anywho, my beautiful friends, I see you. Summer Rose, I see you. Hello, Michael, I see you too. And Twitter, well, Twitter is as Twitter is. Tumbleweed Twitter today. And that is where I will leave you on this beautiful Monday. Go forth today and know. And what now? And know that the power to change lies within your bosom. Now all you get to do is gently apply it. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the beautiful day. And I will see you again on the morrow right here on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Fanbase. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Much love.